I'm a political scientist, and this seminar is motivated by something that won't shock all of you. The American political system isn't working very well these days. It's working pretty badly, and there have been concerns for a long time that we as educators are not imparting the kind of civic knowledge of our history, of our institutions, of the ways of participating to bring about effective political change that we need to address our problems. And there's been a renewed emphasis on strengthening civic education in America. At the same time, it's politically controversial. You've probably heard about the laws proposed and sometimes enacted in state legislatures around the country, including bills proposed here in Pennsylvania to regulate teaching more extensively, particularly how issues of race and ethnicity are taught. Fears of critical race theory are leading to new restraints being put on teachers in addressing some of the most important and difficult issues in American democracy. Well, for the last several years, I've been part of an initiative that is trying to respond to the challenge of strengthening civic education in America. And this seminar is designed to bring TIP into partnership with that effort. The initiative is called Educating for American Democracy. This is its website. I was part of a group that proposed to the National Endowment of Humanities an effort that brought together several hundred teachers, school officials, and scholars from around the country to try to come up with something to strengthen civic education in America. And it was a remarkably diverse group, geographically, demographically, professionally, but also politically. There were outspoken conservatives, there were people strongly on the left, and we gave ourselves the challenge of trying to come up with something that would be genuinely helpful. And what the initiative did was to create what we call a roadmap for excellence. And this roadmap is not a fixed curriculum of any type. It is fundamentally a set of 7 themes accompanied by resources for teachers for those themes, but very much in keeping with the spirit of TIP. The purpose is simply to give teachers ideas and resources that they can use in designing their own curriculum units appropriate for their students. And the roadmap is going to be the basis for the way the seminar will be conducted. We will be doing readings drawn from the resources of Educating for American Democracy has already accumulated to address 7 different themes. These are civic participation, the question of how you actually can engage in trying to bring about political change and what that requires, as well as the arguments for and against civic participation in America. Our changing landscapes, which addresses the physical setting of America and how it has shaped our development and how we have reshaped the landscape over time. Issues of environmental policies, issues of rights of indigenous peoples, many others can be explored through this theme. We the People is a theme that explores how on this continent, populations came to understand themselves as part of a political community with enormous battles over who was a member of that community, who was a full member of that community, battles that continue today. The next theme is a new government and constitution that looks at the basic structure of American governance, federal, state, and local. And there's a theme of institutional and social transformation that looks at the history of change in America with a question of what's driven change, what have the major substantive transformations been, how desirable are they, and what directions might we pursue from here. The next theme is a people in a world, and it represents the heightened awareness today that you can't really understand the United States in isolation from the rest of the world that affects us enormously, and we affect them enormously. So a more transnational perspective on American experience is one of the themes. And the final theme is contemporary debates and possibilities, a set of issues about that Americans confront today. In addition to these themes, the Educating for American Democracy materials present 5 design challenges that we'll also discuss. The design challenges are issues that we all have to think about when we are teaching on one or more of the themes. And they include the questions of how do we motivate agency that might actually help make the political system work. They include concerns to how you tell the many stories of the many peoples in America, our plural stories, while recognizing that they do constitute, to some contested degree, parts of a shared story of American political development. There's a challenge in how we present America's history and stories in ways that celebrate appropriately American achievements, but at the same time, honestly appraise the difficulties. Tied to that is the concern about how far we try and deal with our issues through compromise, through trying to find common ground. There are some issues, many issues, where compromise is necessary for progress. In American history, there have been some issues where compromise seems morally unacceptable. And we get people to think about that, and that leads to the challenge, again, of how we present our history honestly, and at the same time, do it in ways that might foster a reflective, thoughtful, perhaps critical patriotism, but don't simply represent maligning of the achievements that many Americans and many groups have had in the history of our country. And balancing the concrete and abstract, a problem in teaching so many kinds of materials. How do we make this speak to the lived experience of our students, as well as capture the more general issues of principles that we want students to learn and reflect about. So we'll have readings on each of those 7 themes. We'll discuss them in relation to these challenges that we face in trying to design curriculum that might be that speak to one and more of those themes. The Educating for American Democracy initiative already includes a wide range of resources on the different themes designated for different grade levels that teachers will be able to draw on if they choose in writing their curriculum units. They will not be restricted to those materials that are already on the EAD website. And indeed, my hope is that the curriculum units written by TIP fellows will become resources that will be added to the educator resources on the Educating for American Democracy site, and will be available to teachers for around the country. Before I close, let me show you one more thing that I meant to show earlier, which is this really is a program that has broad support. It also has some outspoken critics already, but it really does have supporters, champions across the political spectrum. If you look at their site, you'll see it includes teacher groups like the American Federation of Teachers, National Education Association. It includes scholarly groups like the American Historical Association and the American Political Science Association. It includes some more conservative groups like the Bill of Rights Institute and the Freedoms Foundation here in Valley Forge. It includes support from some faith-based communities. It includes a variety of civic-minded groups like the Girl Scouts. It really does represent an approach that has found broad support from a number of perspectives to assist teachers in addressing important issues in a highly controversial time for dealing with those issues. And I think that we have here in Philadelphia a great capacity to produce curricula that will really aid people around the country in finding ways to impart the kinds of civic knowledge and develop the civic skills that American democracy needs for our citizens to have today, and to do it effectively, even in a volatile and polarized political environment. It's a big challenge, but it's important, and I think it's exciting to do. And I'm really looking forward to leading the seminars and seeing what the teachers come up with.